What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to complete the trifecta. I want to talk about Hogwarts Legacy, and if it'll basically be in trouble because of the live service talk that's happening around Warner Bros. So I want to explain what the story is. I want to explain kind of where I stand on it, just to make sure there's zero confusion about what I think about live service, and go from there, okay? Really quickly, if you guys do like this stuff and you guys aren't subscribed, make sure that you guys hit the red button, hit the bell icon so you guys know when all these videos go up. And if you guys want to subscribe to my second channel, Podcast Now Plus is its name, and I'm going to leave a link for it in the description below. All right, I'm going to jump right into it, and again, I'm going to kind of explain myself so nobody's confused. Basically, the story is going in the future, going forward here, is going to be incorporating live service features in their games. And it's a really big movement that they basically want to make going forward. Now, they've already kind of done that in a way with like Mortal Kombat. That's a good example. So going forward here, live service, what does that mean? All live service means, okay, is basically adding to the game, making the game be livable, like literally live, right? Having things constantly be added to it over time so that you don't leave the game, right? That you stick with the game long term, okay? That's what it means. Now, I've talked about this with Gotham Knights. I talked about this with Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League. Now it's Hogwarts' turn. So what I want to make clear is this, so nobody calls me out, nobody says anything that it's just not true about me or how I think or anything like that. Saying that a game has live service elements or saying something about live service doesn't inherently make it bad, okay? When I say live service, it does not equal the devil. It doesn't equal doom and destruction immediately. As I've said before, there are games that have done it well. A lot of people looked at Destiny as an example of games that have done it well. You could look to Battlefront 2 in terms of its redemption arc and saving itself. I would kind of look at it not as that, because it kind of needed live service to make the game good, and that's generally not what you want, although it ended up working out for it. But then for every good example, there's many bad examples. Anthem, Fallout 76, etc., etc. Now, Fallout 76 is an interesting one, and honestly, any open world game that you can think of that has live service is an example for a game like Hogwarts. What's interesting is where my mind went to when I first read this. When I read this, I even tweeted out, I think Gotham Knights is going to be like a test run to see if they can incorporate it in like DC products. Suicide Squad is just doomed, okay? Suicide Squad is going to have it in there. Now, again, does that mean it'll, absolutely be awful? No. There's just history that suggests that there may be issues there. And again, I'm going to talk about what I think the issues could be with Hogwarts, all right? But I also said I don't think Hogwarts Legacy would be impacted at all. Now, giving this time to marinate in my head, honestly, I've kind of reversed myself. I do think Hogwarts Legacy is definitely a candidate to have live service elements in the game. Now, that terrifies me. It also excites me. This is one of the only ones, in fact, of the three, this is the only one that I really have any positives to say about, like, if they actually do it. But again, to make it clear, like, just because it has live service doesn't mean it's immediately bad. I guess it doesn't also mean it's immediately good. It's how they handle it, and how they normally handle it in a bad way. So for those that are still confused, like, well, what actually makes it bad? Normally, it's that they forget about the main game, okay? As boiled and as simple as that, is that when companies and developers and publishers, which, by the way, most of the time it's the publishers, it's the really higher-ups telling the little guys, add this, add that. Remember, Warner Bros. Went to Monolith, the makers of Shadow of War, the last month or two, and said, we want you to add microtransactions into this game. We don't care how you do it, add them in. And it was awful. People really hated it. They actually had to reverse and kind of take them out, or I guess disguise it a little bit better, right? And literally, but the story there is Warner Bros. Did that, not Monolith. They were told to do that, okay? But the thing that where the issues rise is that you forget about the base game. We've said this before, right? We've talked about the potential of Hogwarts Legacy. We've talked about what we want in Hogwarts Legacy. Well, the easiest way of me explaining this to you guys, if you guys don't get it, is this. Would you be okay if I told you, well, remember all those things we want about Hogwarts Legacy? Well, that'll be possible, not at launch. At launch, it'll be a shell of a game. But 1 to 2 years later, it'll really be the game that we all want it to be. That's the quote. Now, do you like that or do you not like that? That is ultimately, and as I always say with all these videos, the impression, the opinion there is up to you. I personally do not want that. Now, again, the positives here is where I could see this going in a good way is like Quidditch, is maybe like multiplayer components. There are things, and especially for an open world game like this, to be able to expand upon it and keep expanding upon it over time is actually exciting, because if it doesn't have something we want in it immediately, maybe it's something we'll get in the future. And for a game like this, I do think it works reasonably well, because you can have quests, you can have kind of a like an epilogue kind of thing. Now, again, with each of these arises a problem. So while I would like if they wanted to give us a Quidditch, like an entire Quidditch mode, month 4 of the game being released, that would be okay. However, should Quidditch have been in the base game? Could they have put Quidditch in the base game and they decided to put it as a live service element later? How do we get these games? How do we get the additions? Do we have to pay for it? Are they season passes? Is it multiple seasons? And that's kind of like a Fortnite thing. Like, do we have 15 seasons where we have to wait them out? How does it work? And that's where the trouble comes from, is they each do it differently. And again, sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. If the game is a shell, if the game when it comes out is such a, like, it's not good, like there's not a lot to do, there's not a lot of characters to interact with, there's not a lot of quests, but then if we start getting quest lines and connections to other characters and all this stuff later on, again, like, that's good. It should have been the base game. And that's the problem with live services. Sometimes companies focus more in on that, and they don't focus in on the base game. Another thing that I didn't really talk about with the other two that I probably should have is how you pay for it. Now, I didn't mention that with the other two, and honestly, this one is like the hardest, because you could maybe imagine Gotham Knights or Suicide Squad, maybe they just give you like additional characters, and even like Marvel's Avengers is doing that, and they're all free. And like, that's a good thing, right? But they also have to find a way to make you pay, because in all reality, they are working nonstop, okay, to give us more content. The game's already out. They're still working on supporting the game, which, by the way, stops a sequel from being made. So for us that want like a trilogy made here, if they make this a live service game and they're working on this for 1-2 years, that's even longer that we have to wait till the next game. Unless they expand and make like another team and they're working on a sequel. Unless that happens, it's just going to take more time from a sequel. So that's something that I've never liked. I would rather just go to the next game personally, but that's sometimes what happens. So that's something to keep in mind. But how would it work? For an open world game like this, the additions that you could give us really are big modes or additional like quest lines. Really, that's it. I mean, you could obviously, there's like cosmetics maybe with wands and like your wardrobe and all that kind of stuff, but in reality, if it's a live service game and you're giving us more stuff, for Suicide Squad, you just give us another Suicide Squad member and they play unique, right? They're unique. Gotham Knights, kind of the same thing. And obviously, okay, maybe you have quest lines, maybe you have stuff like that, but for Hogwarts Legacy, you would need to either, Quidditch is coming to Hogwarts Legacy. It's just coming month 6. Wizard's Chess is coming. It's coming month 8. Dueling is coming. It's coming month 2, okay? They could do stuff like that. They could do, you go on a quest line maybe with like your teacher, or maybe there's something at the end of the game that they want to continue with. And again, the problem that arises there is if you do quest lines with the ending of the game, which does happen. I mean, there's DLC for games like Mass Effect and Dragon Age and stuff like that. But the issue you always have to dance around is you want the game to be complete. You never want add-ons, DLC, expansions, season passes, anything you want to call it. You never want those to actually be the ending of the game. You know what I mean? And there's been examples of games that literally end, and then they say, well, the DLC finishes off the game, or a situation like that. You never want that. The game itself needs to be fully complete. So I know I'm being pessimistic. Again, I do see potential, because maybe there's smaller things that we have in the game where it's like, oh, that character's really cool, but we don't spend too much time with him. Again, assuming the game is like good and complete and it feels like it's its own package, but maybe there's like a character there where like, you know what? He's a cool character. He's clearly a side character, but it would be really cool if we had like some sort of experience with him. And then maybe they do a live service element where, yeah, you go on an adventure with him. It's like a series of 4 quests, you face a new enemy, there's a new fantastic beast to tame, whatever, okay? They give you a whole bunch of new stuff to do with that character. That's fine. If they want to do that for a year or so, if they want to add seasons, remember we talked about like, will there be seasons of the game? Seasons not in like season passes, seasons is in like outside, like fall, winter, stuff like that. Like, could they do something like that? Yes. Again, though, the pessimistic side of me, okay, does go to this can be done very bad. This can take away the biggest thing is it can take away from the base game. And again, initially I didn't think Hogwarts Legacy would really be impacted. As I've thought about it more, it really is a candidate. And if you think about it, they delayed it. Now, I'm not saying they delayed it because of this, but delaying it gives them more time to add these kind of elements to the game. Oh, that's a good idea. Let's take it out and let's just keep it, and we'll put it back in later on, after the game is released. And again, how do they make money from that? Okay, a lot of times they don't just rely, it's easy to say, well, they just rely on like the sales of the game. No, the sales of the game cover the development costs. They cover a lot of things, mainly prior. Okay, after the game is released, they start moving on to the next thing. If they're working on new stuff for a year, even say 1 year, the whole team is working on new things, and they do not get paid zero from any of that. They're still relying on the sales of the game. Rarely does that happen. Normally, they introduce something so you can give them money if you see fit. And that's where like paywalls come in. That's where even like Avengers, okay, the new stuff they're adding, you don't have to pay. But actually in the base game, remember, there's the cosmetic system. And the cosmetic system, you can use the currency of the game, which is very slow and you don't earn it, or you could buy it with real world money. And that was already in the game before the live service things came in afterwards. Okay, you guys see where I'm coming with this? So that's another thing. Like, I don't want to play Hogwarts Legacy and see features in there to give them money where it's like you only put this in because we know you're going to give us more content that's quote unquote free, but you need to make your money back somehow. So you're going to fool these kids or whoever is stealing their parents' credit cards, whatever. You're going to fool them into buying a wand that's like $100 in real world money. And again, I'm exaggerating some of this, but see how this works? There is stuff like that. They have to charge you somehow. Nothing is truly free. Okay, I hope everybody knows that by now, right? They need to charge you somehow. And if they didn't do live service at all, if they didn't do expanding the game at all, I bet you that feature in the base game wouldn't even be there. So these are just examples. I'm not a prophet, okay? I don't know these things for sure that they're going to be in the game, but these are examples of what I think could very well happen. Bookmark this. Remember this video, and we'll have to see what happens as we get closer to the game. So let me know in the comments below, guys. What do you think? Are you worried about it? Are you excited about the potential? Let me know. As always, make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on. I'm still doing Hogwarts Legacy videos every 4 or 5-ish days. Obviously, again, when anything new happens with this game, I'll be sure to cover it. I actually do have a fun leak video, my own kind of leak, and I'll explain that in the next video, so that'll be what we do next. Make sure if you guys want to subscribe to my second channel, Podcast Now Plus. I'll leave a link for it in the description below. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope to see you all on the next video.